Multiplayer game development is hard. If you're an indie developer like me, it's gonna be brutal trying to get anything to work, let alone a full game. It is possible though. It took me about 3 years to get to where I'm at now with my game Grapples Galore, but if you're smarter about how you approach things, you can definitely make something faster than me. Also, before I continue with the video, please consider checking out and wishlisting my game on Steam. It's an arena shooter focused on physics-based grappling hook movement and active ragdolls. It's soon ready for an open beta, and I'm just trying to get a few more wishlists and polish it up a little bit before I release it. Most game developers will say not to make a multiplayer game as your first game, but I feel like that would be kinda hypocritical to say. Grapples Galore is my first real game, and if you're really passionate about making a multiplayer game, go for it. Just be aware it will require a huge amount of time and effort. I know I personally really wanted to make a multiplayer game because those are my favorite types of games. I just think there's something really special about making a game that people can play with their friends and make memories with. I know I have a lot of fond memories of playing free online multiplayer Steam games with my friends in middle school and high school. Online multiplayer game development is really complicated and overwhelming at first. There are so many things like network optimization, network security, anti-cheat, and so much more that you have to keep in mind that you never have to worry about normally. There are also so many features that are just standardized into most multiplayer games that players will expect you to include, and just for this reason, making a generic online multiplayer experience is super difficult. I know because of this overwhelming feeling, I wasted a lot of time during my game's development switching between networking solutions and restructuring everything without any clear direction. I really recommend just planning everything out beforehand for this reason. There are two ways you can structure a multiplayer game, peer-to-peer and client-to-server. Really think through which of these you want to use because you don't want to have to switch approaches halfway through development. To quickly summarize, peer-to-peer is a great choice for indies because you don't have to pay for servers. I chose to do this for my game. It does come with some limitations though, such as worse network security, anti-cheat, and latency issues. You also still need a server to help with connecting players either way, but if you use something like Steamworks.net, you won't need to pay anything for servers. Steam does require you to pay $100, but it's a luxury not to have to worry about server costs at all. For games like competitive shooters that require high reaction speeds, it's probably worth going with a client-to-server model to avoid latency issues and cheaters. There are numerous other benefits of this model. Games like Battle Royales, or any games with complex matchmaking, can pretty much only exist through this model. Try to do your own research though into what's best for your game. Factor in financial risks and the type of game you're making. Also try to structure your game around this choice. Deciding what networking solution you want to go with is also important. I wasted so much time hopping from solution to solution. I only played around with solutions inside of Unity, so I only have perspective on those. Here's a quick rundown of those though. Photon's Pun 2 and Fusion are both great and probably the easiest solutions to set up. They are limited to a client-server model though. Mirror supports dedicated server models and peer-to-peer, but is a little harder than Photon. I personally use this for Grapples Galore alongside a Steamworks solution called Fizzy Steamworks. There are a lot of great tutorials and documentation for Mirror, so I highly recommend this one. Fishnet is a slightly newer solution that's very similar to Mirror. I actually also use Fishnet in my game to handle network transforms because it's a little more optimized than Mirror. I highly recommend checking this one out too. There are a few other solutions out there, but these are the best ones in my opinion. You also need to think about where you plan on publishing your game. Dedicated servers are great for cross-platform games as they make crossplay easier. If you do something like what I've done with Mirror and Fizzy Steamworks, just be aware that your game's pretty much just limited to Steam. Also, be sure to plan out your game's scope and keep it tiny. I thought I had a small scope, but it's taken me 3 years to get to where I am. So much goes into multiplayer games, so you'll have no space for fluff. Keep your scope small, and I recommend avoiding physics-based games too.